Hi, welcome. My name's Kathy Tombaugh, and I'm really glad you're here. Thank you for taking time to watch this training, and welcome to my community. If you've signed up and you want to learn more about substance use, I know it can be such a problem for families. It's very challenging. So I hope you can learn a few things from this training, and do let me know if you have questions. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to help. So know that I have walked in your shoes. I know what it feels like to have a child who is struggling with substance use. Two of my children, we've dealt with marijuana, we've dealt with crystal meth, dependence on both of those drugs. I've been in the helping my kids in the areas of treatment programs, sober living, interventions, and counseling. I feel I know what parents are going through, and as my journey progressed, I decided to start a website, become a coach, and work with families. I think the goal for me was really to help ease the confusion that I felt. I had never dealt with this before, and so that's what I wanted to do, is just to try to reach it and help other families. So we know that family members are badly affected by substance use. Having a child with a drug or alcohol issue leads to a lot of stress for families, especially parents. And parents deserve help and often get very little support. So I know treatment centers want to be helpful. I think many of them do have family programs, but unfortunately, also many of them do not do much for families other than, say, maybe go to a support meeting. So I think what happens often is that parents, the focus becomes on the child, which is important. And of course, what you're trying to do is get your child to change. But parents are just kind of left trying to figure things out on their own. They're often blamed for the problem, and families can easily become isolated because of the shame. There's 1 to 5 people that are negatively impacted for every one person that has a substance use issue. And parents are really in the front and center of that. There's nothing more horrifying than watching your child use drugs or misuse alcohol. It's really difficult, and parents do suffer. Parents are often feeling worried, anxious, depressed. You might feel guilty, angry, resentful, sad, and alone. So these are some things that you can think about doing, and maybe these are some of the things that you've already been told to do. So of course, attending a meeting, there's Al-Anon, there's Nar-Anon. Smart Recovery is another type of meeting that parents can go to. There's a Smart Recovery Friends and Family. In some states, there's a meeting called PALS. I know also some parents or other people have put together meetings just in their own hometown, that they've just gathered parents together and had meetings. So you just have to kind of check out what's in your area. Counselors or coaches can be really helpful. Counselors are great, but you do want to make sure that you're dealing with someone who is very familiar with addiction. If they're not up on that, then it's not going to be as helpful. The other thing that I really like is the CRAFT approach, which is now kind of involved into the Invitation to Change approach. That's another resource that's helpful. The Partnership to End Addiction is another organization. They have a parent helpline that you can call. You can text, you can email them, and they will give you information. And of course, there's books, videos, and websites. The shame, stigma, and fear of stigma keep some parents isolated and alone. So again, parents often feel judged. You may be told that it's your fault that your child's using drugs or alcohol. You may have been called an enabler. You may have been called a codependent. And these are all negative labels that just aren't helpful. It makes you feel worse. You're just trying to help your child, and it doesn't help solve the problem. So the way parents cope and what strategies they put in place can not only help their child, but it also can help them feel better and do better. So the more you take care of yourself, the better off your child is going to be. And what I recommend is really a patchwork approach. So I've mentioned some resources previously, and what I really strongly suggest that parents do is to try each of these programs. Go to an Al-Anon meeting, go to an Nar-Anon meeting, go to a Smart Recovery meeting, check out the CRAFT approach, check out the Partnership to End Addiction, reach out for coaching or counseling, whatever makes sense for you, but try different things because sometimes too, it really depends on who's delivering the information, how you can connect with them, or the same thing in a meeting. Sometimes some meetings you'll connect with better than others. But I like to say, grab what you can from these different resources and put together your recovery that's going to work best for you. So again, the Community Reinforcement and Family Training, or CRAFT, and again, which is now really the latest title is the Invitation to Change approach, because it's incorporating other things besides just CRAFT. But CRAFT was started by Dr. Robert Myers, who's from the University of Mexico. He wrote Get Your Loved Ones Sober. And then the Center for Motivation Change with Dr. Jeff Foote and Dr. Carrie Wilkins took up CRAFT as well and wrote Beyond Addiction and the 20-Minute Guide. CRAFT is helpful with many behavioral problems, and not even just substance use. It's also helpful for problems that you're having with your spouse or with other children with other behavioral issues. So the research study was conducted in 1999 by Dr. Myers, Miller, and Tonigan. And the idea was to get the success rate of getting someone into treatment. So there were groups, they were put in groups for 12 weeks, spouses, parents, any family members that were concerned about their child. And what happened after the 12 weeks are that 70% of the people were able to get their child, not necessarily child, get their loved one into a treatment program. 30% of the people that were given the intervention information were able to get their loved one into a treatment program, and 12% of the Al-Anon. So I do want to say that Al-Anon does not advertise that they're there to help get your child into a treatment program. They're really there to help you as a parent. But I think it's important to know that when you go to a meeting, you're really helping yourself. The chances are not as good that you're going to get your child into treatment. So CRAFT has 3 main goals: to help your loved one get into treatment, to reduce the use of alcohol or drug use, whether or not your loved one has engaged in treatment, and to improve the lives of the concerned family members and friends. The program highlights the challenges that family members face. So it's a very, I think, kind and compassionate approach that really has a deep understanding of what family members are going through. It brings a hopeful message that there is something that parents can do to influence their family situation. So CRAFT helps with understanding. So the struggle around addiction is different for every family member. And again, one size doesn't fit all. So sometimes we're told, you know, this is the solution, everybody's the same, and that's just really not the case. So CRAFT gives parents a set of lenses for understanding the problem of substance use. It gives action steps that parents can take, conversation tools, and really how to best support your struggling child. And again, we know one answer doesn't fit all. There are many paths to change. Success is more likely when you understand the uniqueness of your family situation. But it gives parents the tools that recognize the black and white thinking from peers and professionals, which really is not so helpful. And it encourages parents to stay involved and not feel like they have to detach or let go from their children, which is really heartbreaking for so many parents, and it just adds more stress. Behaviors make sense, even your child's. There is a motivation behind your child's behavior. It's not random or bad. Don't take your child's behavior personally. You want to increase your empathy for the issue. And there are positive things that you can do to help turn your child's behavior around. One of the things that's important to know is that ambivalence is normal. Mixed feelings make sense when it comes to substance use. It's part of really changing any behavior. So if you think of even like going on a diet, if you were trying to lose some weight, there'll be days when that sounds great and you want to do it, and then there's other days when you don't. And that's the same with substance use. It is kind of a back and forth with that. Your child may be reluctant to change or give up their drug using behavior on any given day. And again, on other days, they might feel like that would be a good idea. Enabling is really an overused idea. I think it's another way to shame parents, make you feel bad, and then also to shame yourself. It's important to know what enabling behaviors are and to avoid them, but you can be active, positive, and engaged with your child. It's really backed by research that you stay close, you stay involved is really going to help you. It's going to give you the better chance of change than to detach and let go. So words like enabling, codependent, powerlessness, and to detach with love are often used, and they can be shaming and discouraging for parents. The next idea is to pay attention to the lights. What that is talking about is paying attention to conversation signals. Stay connected and move the conversation forward when you feel like your child's engaged and paying attention and interested in the conversation. When they're becoming confrontational or defensive, you want to move the conversation to a path that is more effective and helpful, or stop conversations that are getting too volatile, or if you see that your child's getting defensive or just shutting down. Find a time when both you and your child are feeling calm to have conversations around substance use. And again, the main thing is to practice. You can't get this information right every single time. The next idea is to help with self-care. This is really job number one for parents and other family members. You want to focus not only on your child, but also on yourself. We know that dealing with substance use is really stressful. So again, like they say in the airlines, I'm sure you've heard this before, but to put your oxygen mask on first. Self-care is critical over the long haul. It's more effective as a support person when you take care of yourself. Also, you want to help manage your emotions. Having emotions around your child's substance use is very normal. Guilt and shame are normal feelings, but you want to try to not be overreactive or over-emotional. Staying calm and non-reactive helps you to be more effective. You also want to be really clear with yourself and your child about your expectations. So the idea is to manage your emotions as best you can. And remember, you're not alone. Isolation is tempting, but it's not so helpful. It increases stress levels. Embarrassment about shaming family and friends is often what comes up for parents. So it's critical that you really get support. So shame versus self-compassion. Shame is really about judgment over past actions. You might feel regret. Shame is judgment about the past and judgment about who we are as a person, which can be really harmful. Self-compassion is noticing your suffering, practicing self-kindness, and acknowledging that suffering is a normal aspect of life. So another strategy with CRAFT is helping with words. And this includes listening, offering information, validating, and empathizing. My online course, Regain Your Hope, offers an overview of the communication skills. And these communication skills can help create space for change. The first one is listening. So ideas around open questions, affirmations, reflections, and summarizing. A person is more likely to change when they feel like they're being heard. Ask yourself, what did I learn about my child in this conversation? How did my child feel about the conversation? And the more questions you can ask your son or daughter as opposed to giving them information, the better. Offering information is another key ingredient to parenting. Our kids may not be so open to hearing suggestions or information from their parent. So one technique is called the information sandwich. And you ask permission, you provide information, and then you check back to see if your child understood or has any questions. And then validating is a process of acknowledging his or her experiences, thoughts, and feelings and actions. Empathizing is understanding things from your child's point of view. And both are conveyed by your attitude and tone in your voice. So the SURF skills are another communication strategy that can be helpful. So the first one is to be more specific. Vague requests are easy to ignore. Things like saying, be more responsible. Well, what does that really mean? So an example could be if you had a teenager, you could say on school days, you need to get up when the alarm goes off. So you know whether your child is actually doing it or not. Or even if you have a child that's living at home that's working, I'm not going to wake you up for work. I need you to get up at the appropriate time. The next one is to offer an understanding statement. The more your child believes that you get what they're going through, the less defensive they will be. The more likely they will be to hear you and follow through with your request. And the third one is to take partial responsibility, that you want to share a piece of the problem. It decreases defensiveness and promotes solving together rather than blaming. And taking partial responsibility, I know, is tough for parents. I think guilt comes up. I know I kind of felt like that. I don't, if you kind of start to take part of the responsibility, then you start to feel bad about yourself. But it's really important that you want to share that your child, that you are going to be part of the solution, that you're a team and you're in this together. And it also lets your child know that you're human, like everybody else. You're doing the very best you can. As humans, we all make mistakes from time to time. And, I'm sure there's things that you might have wanted to do differently if you could have, but we're all going to, at this point, move forward. And the final one is labeling your feelings. So you want to state feelings in a calm manner, lower the temperature. If you're saying things like furious and terrified, you want to maybe use words like frustrated and worried. Other 3 skills that are to be brief, be positive, and offer to help. So again, we want to avoid conversation traps, which can keep us stuck. And here are some of those that are the most common. I think most parents have done these, but these are important to just keep in mind. So the information trap is when you're trying to educate your child without getting and understanding what they already know. Too much information becomes white noise. The lecture trap is one-way communication, talking at your child versus talking with your child. The third one is the labeling trap. When you label your child an addict or an alcoholic, it's not so helpful. They want to argue around the label and not the behavior. They may be less likely to get help if they feel like they have to put a label on or call themselves a certain label. Now, again, if your child chooses to go to a 12-step meeting and that they have chosen to call themselves an addict or an alcoholic, that's very different. But I think as a parent, you don't want to be putting the label on your child. The blaming trap is the 4th conversation trap. So the blaming is about conversations that focus on finding the person at fault. And then there's the taking sides trap, when a parent takes a particular side and the child defends the behavior and may argue about not changing and why they aren't going to change. And what happens is with this one is that they may be really dig their feet in and start really arguing, and they may not really even feel that strongly, but because you've taken one side, they've taken the other. And again, the question and answer trap is another one with closed questions that have yes or no answers, is really a conversation stopper. Open questions, words like what or how can help with those. They promote conversation. So helping with actions are tools to help parents encourage change in the child's behavior and motivation. It's a more effective way to respond to a child's behavior. and it can help influence the process of change. How to solve a problem. Here are 7 steps for identifying problems, generating solutions, and evaluating how they work. So brainstorming, you want to involve your child in the process, define the problem, brainstorm solutions, eliminate unwanted ideas, select one potential goal or solution, think about the obstacles to the goal, address the instances, and see how things go. So this is just a way to really get to the heart of a problem, and solving a problem or brainstorming with your child is a great exercise if they'd be open to it, to sit down and pull them in and have them work with you on ways that you both can come up with solving this difficult problem. Parent collaboration is often an issue. Collaboration helps everyone, especially parents. So you want to get on the same page, which can often be difficult. Other parents, the other parent might be uncooperative, might have different ideas, they may disagree, but working together, even when there are disagreements, can really help you solve the problem. And positive reinforcement is a big one with the CRAFT approach. Dr. Myers likes to say you get more bees with honey. It's a contrast to detachment or punishment. So practicing positive reinforcement is not the same as enabling. You want to reward positive behaviors versus rewarding negative behaviors. It needs to be something that is meaningful to the teen or young adult. And allowing for natural consequences to happen is another thing that can be stressful for parents, but it's important. So there's 3 responses when your child has negative behavior. So allowing for natural consequences is recommended, punishment is less recommended, and engaging in enabling behaviors is not recommended at all. So this can be emotionally difficult at times for parents, but it's really the foundation of CRAFT with the positive reinforcement, using both. Using positive reinforcement and then allowing for natural consequences is what can really help you make some gains. And then making your own consequences happen is another one. So you want to have a clear and defined consequence. The communication between parents and child about what the consequences will be needs to take place so your child is really clear about the consequences. Be consistent and follow through on agreed upon consequences, and parents must be willing and able to deliver. And you also want to match the consequences with behavior. You don't want to, come up with a really harsh consequence for behavior that maybe isn't deserving of that kind of a consequence. And if you start small, you can work up if you need to, but sometimes a smaller consequence has just as much impact. Change the way you see things, and the things you see will change. And then here is my contact information if you have questions or if you need other information. So again, I want to thank you so much for listening and hanging in there with me with this training. I know dealing with substance use can be so difficult, and my heart goes out to you. If there's anything I can do to help, I want to be a support for you, if that makes sense. So again, check out other, my website has the course, it has, I offer a free consultation, and there's hundreds of blog posts that you can go through as well and read information as well as other resources. So take care, and I hope to connect with you soon. Bye.